we were recently at the Prevail release in Des Moines, Iowa. Prevail is our new online video program for intruder response. And we had someone that had been in attendance at that release that responded back the next day and asked us a question that we hear quite frequently. That question was simply, what's the real difference between run, hide, fight, and the 3 outs? And we do hear that quite frequently because they sound very similar. And in theory, they sound the same. Run, hide, fight, or get out, lock out, take out. Run, hide, fight is a response protocol that's really being pushed by the federal government. And while it's probably better than nothing, if you have no plan at all, but the reality is if you've never really thought about run, hide, fight, and the words and the connotation that goes along with those words, you may be setting yourself up for failure. So one of the main differences is, as it is taught, run, hide, fight is a linear program, meaning if you first attempt to run, and if I cannot run, then I want to try to hide, and if I can't hide, I'm going to try to fight as a last resort option. Whereas the 3 outs was never designed as a linear option. You could choose any one of those outs depending on your relationship, your proximity to the threat, and choose the best option for you at that time. So that was one of the biggest differences. But let's just start with the words themselves, and words matter. And so one of the things that they tell you is you want to run away from the shooter. Well, when we first developed our 3 outs and we were working a lot with schools, there were several times when run, hide, fight first came about because we were already teaching our 3 outs. And so what we started doing was we tested it. And we had 100 teachers several times in the hallway. And I was around the corner, and they knew that there was a scenario getting ready to start. And when I fired the blank gun and counted to 5 and then stepped into the hallway, half of those people were running towards me. They could not tell what direction the sound came from. And we've seen that over and over. In fact, the Navy Yard shooting in Washington, D.C. kind of confirmed that, where you had police officers that entered on the first floor, heard the shooting, believed it was on the 3rd floor, responded to the 3rd floor, and it turns out the gunman was on the 1st floor the entire time. So it's very difficult to tell where that noise comes from because it reverberates inside the building, the construction, all of that is going to have an impact on the sound. The other side to that is it's really kind of hard to pre-program or to understand what my response may be in this linear approach. If I can't pre-plan, where would I run? How would I run? Because I have to wait for the attack to start to even determine which way that's going to be. So the second word that really causes us concern in the run, hide, fight is hide. And one of the big things to me is when you really think about it, hide is a defensive mindset. Hiding is not being offensive. And where do I hide? What is a good hiding spot? Now, if you listen to the entire 30-minute run, hide, fight training, yes, it says hide behind a locked door, turn the lights off, turn your cell phone off, and all of those things. But the reality is this, what people remember is the word hide. And I go back to the same thing. Where have you ever been trained to properly hide? And as an adult, where have you ever been trained to hide? And you go back to as a child. Hide and seek, as a game. What were the consequences if you got caught playing that game? You're it. But in this scenario, what are the consequences if you get caught? So the big question I really try to make people think about is, would you want your child to only try to hide from a gunman? Is that adequate? Is that good enough? Or do you want more? Do you want a different mindset? And so sometimes selecting the word is what we're really looking for. And again, we have seen scenarios, actual incidents where people attempted to hide. San Bernardino comes to mind, where people said they reverted back to the training because previously that year they had been trained in the same facility, in the same classroom space where the attack occurred, and they said they went back to their training. And what did that consist of? They got under the table and tried to play dead. It worked for some, but for a lot of those people it didn't work. Is that good enough? And so again, that word has meaning. And the training that goes along with that word, we have to go back and what does it consist of? Now, the last one is a last resort option, and that's fight. And I've seen many of these people training the run, hide, fight that don't even like to tell you the word fight. And the problem is, well, you're going against a gunman, the likelihood of you using improvised weapons against a gun, but the reality is this, what other choice do you have? The decision has been made for you. So how do ours differ from that? First and foremost, the 3 outs outs. The way that we say it, if you ever hear someone talk about run, hide, fight, they always say it in the same order: run, hide, fight, because that's how it was taught. Now you have trainers that are starting to say it's no longer a linear model. They are actually, you could choose whichever one you have to. Well, that's good, and it should be the way it is, but it's always said in that order. The reason we call ours 3 outs is there are 3 options, 3 outs: lockout, get out, take out. But I can say that in any order: take out, get out, lockout. It doesn't matter the order, but we use 3 outs because there are 3 outs. You choose which one is best for you based on circumstances. So when we talk about get out, 1, it allows me to pre-plan. Every time I go into a new space, the first thing I look at is just the space I'm in, and I ask myself the first question: could I lock this space out? And I look at the options. And if I know that I can't lock it out while I'm in that space, then that leaves me with 2 options: get out or take out. So the second thing I start doing is, before anything ever happens, I start becoming aware of where are my designated exits. And if the gunman comes from this direction, I have an exit this way. And then also, what are my secondary options? It could be a window. And even if I'm on the 2nd or 3rd floor, that window could still be an option. So the outs allow me to start pre-planning before anything ever happens. And then understanding that that takeout option is a last resort option. Now, when we talk about lockout, we don't want people to trust a keyed lock alone. And why is that? Well, when you look at school attacks, one of the first victims at Sandy Hook Elementary was a principal. And what would a principal carry but a master key? And if those teachers are only trained to trust a keyed lock alone, and that gunman kills somebody that has a master key, every one of those locks has just failed. So we tell people, never trust a keyed lock. What if I can't lock a door, but I could still barricade it? So it's still a lockout capability. So we use the term lock, layer, and reinforce. We want people to not always just say, okay, I've locked the door, that's good enough. I want you to say, is it good enough? Do I truly trust this door to keep me safe from that adversary on the other side? I'm going to put everything I can in front of this door, and I'm going to create as many layers as possible to buy me time. So from a lockout standpoint, how do I barricade a door? How do I barricade a door that opens in versus opens out? And again, where have you ever been trained? And again, this is missing from many of the different training philosophies that are out there. How do I barricade? Well, if you go back to the training that the average person has, where have they ever been trained to barricade? They watch movies. And so I take the little nightstand and I put it in front of the door, and Michael Myers can't get in. But in real life, that's not the way it works. So learning to properly barricade is an important component of the 3-out training programs. And then lastly, when you look at get out or those, keeping in mind alternate exits, those types of things. And if I'm in a space that can't be locked down, I already know I may have to get out of this space, but I kind of get out to an area that can be locked down. Why not just automatically get out of the building? And those are some of the things that we have to look at as well. Because if I automatically get out of the building, as these people evolve, how do I know that there's not a gunman waiting on the outside while one's on the inside? So we have to look at the evolution and study these incidents. And from the takeout standpoint, it's simply use whatever you have around you. But 1, we say make the decision now. Think about it like this. If you're at work and it's bring your child to work day, would you do anything that you could to save your child's life? In other words, are they worth dying for? If you have no other option, your lockout has failed, your get out is failing, and the only thing that you can do to save your child's life is to fight back, would you do it? And it's okay if you can't explain it or answer it that way. Is there anyone in your life worth living for? I will do whatever it takes to get home to that family member. Now I've already made that mental decision that in the worst case scenario, the last option that I have, the decision has been made for me. I will fight back. And it means that I'm going to fight back, not when he gets in the door, but whatever he puts through. If he puts his hand through that door, I'm going to do all the damage I can to that hand to try to discourage him from wanting to come any further. Rather than fight the whole person, fight what he gives you. Our odds go up significantly. So the choice is simply, if you're going to get beat doing something.